I think we're recording. Cy might join us. I don't know what's going to go on with that, but it's the four of us today. It's me, Leo, Shauna, and Laura, and we're going to do a quick edition of Night Watch. So I think the first thing that we wanted to talk about. You okay, Laura? She's like having a fucking seizure. What is she doing now? Oh.
Get out of tequila.
Oh shit!
Be quiet.
Bobby.
All right. Okay.
Raise your hand.
All right. So the first thing that we're going to talk, I guess the thing that's on the agenda that we wanted to talk about was the NJBSA. You know,
NJSBA.
Whatever.
New Jersey.
Here we go with
School Board
me
Association.
saying things correctly again. I have to say things correctly.
And
NJSBA, which, you know, I have a love-hate relationship with these guys because I feel like they're moving boards of educations across the board to be sort of very like what's the word, CYA, cover your ass, you know. And while some of their guidance is good, they're not the law, you know. But in any event, that's a whole other spiel for another day. I guess what we wanted to talk about was sort of Pam's question to the NJ, whatever the fuck it's called. Shauna's just drooling at the moment that she's going to be able to jump and correct me. All right, and Leo's just laughing. Why are you here, Leo?
I don't know.
You just show up to this shit.
I have nothing to add.
All right, I'm going to share this. Tab. Wait, no, that's not it. Okay. All right, let's play this. And see if you can hear it, guys. Just give me a... Wait.
So I had a couple questions.
Can you hear it?
Yeah. We have, right, we have policy that guides us, but what happens if we don't follow that policy, right? Because there's the code of ethics, but sometimes if you didn't follow policy, it doesn't necessarily break the code of ethics. Like what holds you accountable to the policy?
What? I'm sorry. Say it again. What goals are?
So like if in policy, there are certain things, right, that says, you know, as a board member, you should not be doing this or that, but you break it. But by breaking it, you don't break a code of ethics. What holds you accountable to the actual policy? Like, how do we hold people accountable to the policies we actually put?
I think if it's a policy of board action,
Yeah.
which is, I think your fellow board members hold you accountable.
Like how? Yeah, like literally, what do we do?
Well,
Yeah, what do we do as a board?
If you break your own policy,
If a board member
breaks
a
a
policy,
breaks a board
bylaw.
A board bylaw, it's really up for the board to police their own. Those bylaws are yours.
Yeah.
That's that they're set to determine how the board governs itself.
Some of our bylaws state that if that happens, the president will sit down with the board member and possibly the board council and have a discussion. They're not all like that, but that's one of them, perhaps because it doesn't necessarily rise to the level of being an ethics violation, but it's still a violation of a policy.
Right.
So some of them have that. Yeah.
Right. So.
All right, let me stop presenting here. All right, so that was
Hilarious.
that was, well, here's Size coming in. She'll be coming in soon. I hit admit, so that was Robert. Pam, well, that was Pam asking the NJSBA lady person about what to do. Hey, Sai, and then Robert at the end of that kind of gave his version of it. So that I think that was on the, I forgot who wanted that on the agenda, but what are some thoughts on that, guys?
I think we're back in the same, like, cover your ass boat. You know, that accountability, which we've been asking for forever. I don't know that anyone on the board or in our administration knows what that means or how to do it. I think Pam knows she's in trouble, and I think she's scared about how much trouble she might be in. But if it's left up to the board to decide her fate, I mean, we all know they're just gonna brush it under the rug like everything else. I think she should step down, personally.
From the board.
Yeah, goodbye. You obviously can't do your job, and you broke code of ethics. I mean, you broke several codes of ethics. That's my opinion.
Leo,
So
Shauna?
Yeah, I found it interesting that she didn't ask anything about the code of ethics, that she wanted to know what happens if she breaks board policy. So now I'm
Kind of said
wondering-
it. Sorry, she kind of like she said both code of ethics, policy, and bylaws. So I don't know if she was conflating all three of those, or she's no idea what any of those are. But they all, like, I was writing it down. She asked specifically about code of ethics, bylaws, and policy. So I don't know. Sorry, Shauna.
Okay, no, that's okay. To me, it sounded more like she was concerned with board policy and what happens if that's violated, which made me wonder, oh my gosh, now what happened? I mean, we know about the violations of the ethics code, but now they've got me wondering, the only thing I could think was maybe she was referring back to the previous week when we almost violated our own policy with that school custodian's record. And maybe that's what she was referring to when she said policy. I have no idea, but I found it kind of funny because there seems to be very little self-awareness going on here.
So I asked to review this segment here because there's a bigger picture I found. And what boggles my mind, and let's put Pam aside for asking the question. I mean, this is a great question to ask when you're going to run for Board of Ed is, how does it work? How do you get policed? Can you get thrown in jail? You're a leader in the community. How bad can an infraction be? And the answers were a little bit telling, very telling, actually. It's that the worst that could happen, according to Robert, is you can have a discussion with the lawyer and the chair. And that's it. So if anybody is hearing this, they should be like, all right, there's tons of infractions, lawsuits, ethics complaints, and things that are about right now. There's nothing that will happen to them. So you ask for them to step down, that's up to them. Are they going to step down?
No.
They self-police. The only mechanism that there is to police is voting. That's what this whole thing was so interesting to me for. It's like, hello, this is the case in point as to how important voting is that they can change policy anytime they want. If you think the right to speak is important, they just chipped away at that again. For you get 3 minutes, but you can't get an answer. So everybody puts their 3 minutes in. What happens if you don't like the answer? You have more question. You're shut down. So if you don't like that, and that becomes an ethics violation, do they get policed or thrown off the board? No, you have to vote them out. It's the only lever we have. I'm off my soapbox. I just find that extremely disheartening.
So I have two thoughts. I think the reason why my feeling or my hypothesis as to why that question was asked was I think she was hoping for the NJSBA lady to say nothing and almost act as a justification for the ethics suit or the ethics violation claim that she put in. In other words, I think she was hoping or fishing for an answer or response that somehow validated her filing the complaint that is now backfired on her and has resulted in, I think, 8, 11, I don't know how many violations. But I think the thing that's getting missed for me is the role that Robert Ciancelli, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He was the first person to put this out there, and he read it from the back of a cocktail napkin. Or, well, it looked like he was reading it from the back of a cocktail napkin. And if you read, and so if you look at that meeting, Dr. Varley looks at him, almost kind of gives him a cue. Then he goes and blindsides everybody with something that wasn't on the agenda, which was the fact that the Board of Education was going to file, right? And then that backfired, so they had to go and correct it. And then when Dr. Forger asked him to read it, in the second meeting that they tried this in, now he's an attorney, right? That's my understanding is he's an attorney. He's on the
but
policy.
that's not his area of law, JP.
Right, but he's also on the policy committee of the board, and he's the one who initiated this, and then voted. So he initiated it the first time, and then voted again for it the second time. So I mean, I get. So Pam, I think, the violations are the violations, and whatever happens there. But I'm really frustrated. So on one hand, not frustrated, but I'm sort of like surprised that Pam is taking so much heat for this, and she it is what it is. But really, Robert, in my mind, if I think about like who should have been the person to stop all this, who should have been the person that said, "Hey guys, we're kind of going off the rails," Robert is really the person that comes to my mind as policy committee, his education and training. Yeah. And so I think Pam was just hoping for a lifeline from the NJSBA to say, "Oh, there's nothing you could do." So then, or the only thing you could do is file an ethics complaint at some level,
and that's all,
validating.
That's what she said. That's what was the answer too, wasn't it?
Kind of, right? But there's the problem. The NJSBA has no teeth, right? So the NJSBA is really kind of just telling boards, "Hey, I don't know what authority they have other than they have experience of being board members," right? There's no teeth to them. They can't really do anything, and I feel like what they do sometimes is just give cover to the boards to sort of withdraw, and they're in some ways acting like the attorneys. Well, and they're trying to kind of play this role of, well, the board isn't really a government agency. Well, I mean, I think that's just what they're implying, and really they are. They're a government entity that's meeting in front of the public. So there's all these things, but my main point to that whole thing, or my main takeaway to that whole, my two thoughts were, Pam, I do believe that Pam understands that she probably proceeded in a way that was incorrect now. And I think she believed lawyers when she shouldn't have believed the lawyers. I think it was also politically motivated. But the second thing that I was left asking is like, really, Robert? Really? At the end of all this, that's all you have to say? Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox. All right. I think, does anybody else have anything to say about that? I got this stupid stain on my shirt that I keep staring at. Fuck. All right, so
there was a lot of soapboxing for that one.
Yeah. I do at some point think we should do an episode about the ethics complaints and kind of just recap where they stand and where everything is, but we'll leave that for another time.
Agree.
Yeah, we'll leave that. Let's go to police and schools. We have two positions that are going to be put in to, I think, the elementary school level now. And this is one topic that I think we all have kind of different views on. Laura, I'll let you go first because I know you're on a little bit of a time crunch.
Yeah, I mean, this all goes back to kind of this equity that we've been kind of like dreamboating for our schools. And I don't know what better place to be equitable, but in the safety and security of our students and our staff. And it makes me irritated to know that the price tag for these Class 3 officers is not, I mean, it's not a lot. It's half a position of a business office administrator assistant. And I'm happy to hear that, Dr. Varley's allowing some room in the budget for 2 additional, but we have 6 schools. Like, can't we get one for each school? That's how I feel.
Hold on. The pay is half of a school administrator, assistant administrator? For a cop?
So
No,
because it's not a full-time, I'm not going to put a number out there because I did
But
research.
it's less. We can say it's less easily.
It's not a lot of money. I think we've hired a lot of assistants in offices that are unnecessary. And if you're going to start throwing your money at positions, let's get bodies into the school whose job it is to just be on safety and security.
Okay.
Right.
Just to answer John Leo's question, I don't think it's a regular cop. We're talking a retired police.
Yes, I know, but still the responsibility level is higher though for the cop.
Yeah, and we do have an existing multi-year contract with Berkeley Heights Police Department, and I don't quote me on it. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. It could be an old number. I think it's about 650,000 or something, but it's a multi-year contract. And on safety, my biggest thing is who doesn't want their kids to be safe? And you bring a good point, Laura. Now, in the question of equity is, I think we need to look at a lot more factors before we jump on this bandwagon. Is, has anyone proven that our kids are not safe in our elementary schools currently? How did we get from a parent proposing an app and radios to adding more officers? It seems like some sort of a knee-jerk reaction by the administration. It's being very reactive. So that's my question to you guys. Has anyone proven that our kids are not safe in our elementary schools?
It's tough to prove that. It's a random act. It's hard to gauge. I mean, this is why. So the question is, how far do we go with the security we're proposing? Do we do metal detectors? Do we just take all the police out of the school? So what's our philosophy? How far do we want to take safety and security? Right.
But I don't think that's a good discussion that's had. I think what's frustrating for me, at least, and I think Cy brings up the main question for me, is demonstrate evidence of a problem that a police officer is most equipped to resolve. It's not a mental health. They're not trained in mental health. They're not trained in really many of the things that kids struggle with. And now we're talking about elementary school level kids. And my thinking always goes to the evidence, right? So if you look at the research time and time again, like, so they did a 20-year, they looked at all the school shootings between, I think, the last 20 years up to 2000 or whatever. And they looked at the school shootings that occurred with police officers in the building versus school shootings without them. And they found that the school shootings that occurred with police officers in the building were deadlier.
Why? Because the police officer caused it to be deadlier?
No, but JP.
Well, there's a lot of there's a lot of factors to that. It could be that with knowing that the police are in school, it becomes a much more. I mean, there could be a lot of things. A more adversarial confrontation. It could be that the person's arming themselves more with that knowledge and equipping themselves more. It could be a lot of reasons, right? But
the primary one,
huh?
But the primary one probably being that they're in a more violent area.
No, they controlled for all that. If you look, this is the other thing that frustrates me is I give people, not you, John, I give people, like, so when I'm having these conversations, I provide this research, and the knee-jerk reaction is to just disqualify the research without even reading it. So the research,
yes,
because it doesn't support their position.
But that's my point, is that if you don't have a sincere attitude, that's what I wrote in my article. If your attitude isn't sincere about security, you're just going to be knee-jerk on everything. So if you do have an event and the angry parent crowd comes out and you want to abate them and silence them real quick, then you throw metal detectors in. Just put them in there, but you don't have any support system to make sure that the metal detectors work, or they're tested on a routine basis. So they're junk. They're no good. So is putting a cop at every school important if you already have one or two there, or should you just get rid of all of them? I mean, the thing is, the data to prove whether this is necessary or not is tough, because these we're talking about random acts of nature, basically, whether somebody comes in with a weapon to cause harm or not. How do you conduct that study?
Go ahead, Sai, go ahead.
So all I'm saying is, if it's not proven that we don't have a security or a safety issue, and we have an existing contract with our very competent Berkeley Heights Police Department, my concern is we are in a third of a year of a learning loss. And how are we going to get kids caught up? And it's not going to be done by adding up retired cops, so what's the benefit? And also my thing is, we are a small town with a radius of maybe an average 6 miles. We currently have approximately 27 dedicated police officers. I don't know if the number is right, 27, 28. And God forbid, even if there is an incident, our police department is within a radius of 1 to 3 miles to all the elementary schools. Mountain Park is just down the street. I don't want to think about the worst case scenario, but we have to plan for it. It's risk management. So we have an existing contract. We have a designated cop at CMS. We have existing SROs. So how did we get to adding 2 additional SROs is going to make us safe? And maybe I'm going to be the unpopular opinion here, but guys, what is happening in Berkeley Heights that the police is so busy that they cannot, the entire force can report to any incident within minutes because of the way they're located and where our current existing elementary schools are?
So the thing is when you talk about risk assessment, it's low likelihood that a case like this should happen, but the consequences are very high. So we're talking about a moderate risk scenario.
Moderate
Yeah,
seems like a strong word.
Yes, because on a simple graph of likelihood versus consequences, it's very low likelihood, but it's very high consequences. It's losing life of children.
Let me ask you
So
this.
the thing is the cops are insurance, is what they are. It's insurance. Do you need it? Do you need more? Who knows?
No, let me ask you this. We have an existing contract with Berkeley Heights Police Department. We have a dedicated cop. We have dedicated SROs. What are the metrics? How many incidents have happened in the last 4 years?
No,
How
Laura.
much have we spent?
No.
And how many incidents have happened? Where is the money going? What have they prevented? And when we ask these questions, we find out that one of the cop has like a, he conducts these DARE classes or LEAD program. He has an office in GL. Like, I don't get it. Like, please, I'm saying we have a competent police department. We are a small town. And this is something like, this is an immigrant's perspective, maybe. Like when I first came
Shauna, do you want to hop onto this at all?
like, why do we need 2 separate police departments between New Providence and Berkeley Heights was my basic question. Then I got down to it. But so if we have 27 dedicated police officers who are within 1 mile to 3 miles of all our elementary schools, won't they be able to respond?
But it's not.
Well, Sean,
it's not
so I want to get. We have a tight time frame. Shauna, do you have anything you want to say? I know this isn't a hot topic for you, but I just wanted to give you some space to say something.
No, just real quick in kind of response to what you guys have said. It's not only about what happens if there's a school shooter. There are a lot of other reasons why, having a cop in the school, they could react immediately, such as, oh my gosh, here's a kid with a box cutter. There's a police officer there. Okay, now if the airsoft had been an actual gun instead of an airsoft, you've got a police officer there.
But that's. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shauna.
No, that's okay. It's just there. It's not only about can a cop get to the school fast enough.
All right, but that's the box cutter and the airsoft gun are precisely why I think I'm concerned about police in schools, because we still don't know the context around the box cutter. I want to be clear that everybody has an assumption or a belief about what happened based on what they've heard from people. And I don't think that we have a full understanding of what happened there. And the airsoft gun is, again, I get it's in New Jersey, it's quote unquote, but once you have law enforcement connecting with a kid in a school when they're doing something, the choices are out the window, and it starts becoming a very defined protocol that could lead to a child being prosecuted. But John, let me finish my point here. So we've already established you're defining it as a moderate risk. I mean, there's high consequences to a nuclear war. I mean, we can kind of go down the line. All these other problems that we're talking about that police can help with, I don't know if show me the evidence that they're the most qualified people to help with. And what we're not even talking about, aside from all this, which is this is what really frustrates me, is the impact that these programs have been shown to have on children of color and children with special needs. And everybody's like, that's fine. That's something we'll deal with. Yet we're 2 more police officers 3 years later, 4 years later, and we haven't had a discussion on that. And we don't have reporting mechanisms on this. Okay, you want cops in schools. I can't stop that. Everybody appears to want that, even though the evidence suggests it does nothing, and in fact creates more harm than good. Study after study, more harm than good. But you can't at least give us the ability to follow and track the data? Can you at least give us the ability to have some oversight and some influence on these programs? This is 2 more cops without any of those mechanisms.
So we have an existing contract, and any time, like, correct me if I'm wrong, I drive by Snyder, Hughes, there is a cop car there. I check around Woodruff, thanks to the traffic issues, there is a cop.
Let John. I wanted John to respond. Go ahead, John.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So there's studies from both sides. There are studies that suggest that cops in the schools are actually better, not worse. There's both studies. First of all. Secondly, it works in Berkeley Heights. To your point,
show me the evidence that it does.
I'll tell you why it works in Berkeley Heights is because the evidence that happened in the CMS issue, that the kids felt confident speaking to them, and they're focused on positive relationships, not just so that they can be a safety agent at the school, but also to teach kids how to work with authority. But to your point, John, it doesn't always have to be like that. If the chief changed tomorrow and started requiring SROs to frisk kids, that could be a problem. We don't want that, because that starts to develop the environment that you're worried about. If the cop is there solely to be an adult that can help with safety and security, but they're also there to build positive relationships with the kids, that's my line. I would like it standardized at every school. That's it. But I don't want the metal detectors, and I also don't want them to start frisking and checking bags. Now you're getting into the environment that I think you're worried about.
Okay, so let me kind of offer a little bit of a counterpoint here, John. John, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. I guess the question is, and again, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, right? I don't necessarily have an interest in my kids developing a positive relationship with the post office person. I don't necessarily want them to have a positive relationship with the DMV employee. I don't want them to necessarily have a positive relationship with the Department of Public Works. I don't have a problem with any of them, but I don't have a vested interest in them having positive relationships with people who work, right? And I guess everything that you're told when it comes to law enforcement is really have a parent or a lawyer present if they're going to come at you. So I guess the question is, you're making an assumption that everybody wants that the idea of children having a trusting relationship with an empowered authority like the police is a good thing.
And it's an assumption. I'm making an assumption.
But it's also based on, right? So, and you also cited studies that are for the overwhelming data on police and schools is that it creates a bigger problem than it helps. And that there are other things that can be done that are more cost effective and less problematic that solve the same problems. But so I guess my real issue with this is exactly what Cy was saying, is that we're throwing two police officers in here with all these questions. And John, I'll assume everything that you're saying is correct for now, right? Let me assume everything that you're saying or your position is correct about Berkeley Heights Police Department. I don't know them very well. You know, I don't know every police officer that works there.
These are retired cops, John. All I'm saying is, show me the need, show me the actual need, and what have these SROs that have been there, how many incidents were there? And if these are minor incidents, if there is 1 or 2 incidents in a year, where is the business case? We might as well use the money towards learning loss, towards, children's education, teachers, paraprofessionals. We are coming out of a pandemic. Is this the right way to spend our money? If there is a need, give us the metrics. We have a multi-year contract. They have been there. And the responses we get is, what have they been doing in individual school? When do they clock in? What are they doing? Oh, they teach a lead program. So if you teach a lead program, any cop can go in there and teach a lead program. We don't need to add more people to this contract. That's my only take. And my other thing is, you should drive by. You already see a significant police presence. There is predominant, 80% of the time, starting from 7:50 or 7:30, if you go on Snyder, you see a cop car. You see 2 sometimes on the driveway on Hughes. There is one by Woodruff. There's one by MKM, thanks to the traffic concerns. So what else is these retired SROs going to do or add is my question.
I'd like a contract. Somebody. All right.
Not in your line of work. No,
not in my line of work. So go ahead, John. John or Shauna?
No, I like the data. I mean, yeah, there should be some kind of accountability in trying to show why we're making that decision. I agree with that.
Yeah. Look, I can understand the desire to have police in schools. I can understand the comfort that it brings. And I know that I'm coming at least from a very counterintuitive position. But I think a reasonable middle ground, if you're going to do this stuff, a reasonable middle ground is, before we add these 2 police officers to the schools, to have some oversight, some data, some accountability to families in this program, and to acknowledge where how these programs have gone south, and to have safeguards in place to sort of protect against that. All right, we've lost half of our people here. All right, the last thing that we're going to talk, John Leo's back, unfortunately. Why can't Laura be the one that comes back? Why do you have to keep coming back? Let's go to Oprah. What is it? The Custodian of Records, Part 5. So that's back on the agenda, guys. So they're gonna put this. The position is back on the agenda to be voted on, and we talked about this in the first sort of experiment. Where we're hiring yet another position for the business office. They're going to have some kind of novel argument, I guess, for this at the next Board of Education meeting. Any thoughts on this side? This is something that you're passionate about. You want to talk a little bit about this?
Is the agenda up? I'm sorry, I haven't caught up.
Yeah, the agenda's up.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
so my biggest, yeah, sorry, Shauna, go ahead. Go ahead.
That's okay. I just wanted to point out that on the agenda, and this is super important here, miniature horses. Miniature horses are not included under the Act for service animals and shall only be permitted if they're individually trained. And ponies and full-size horses are, where did it go here? Sorry, are not considered miniature horses, just so you know.
Like, can we bring horses? Are we allowed to bring a horse into a school?
Yeah.
Can somebody bring a horse into a school?
As a service animal.
A horse?
Yeah.
I'm going to test that hypothesis.
Okay,
I'm going to
sorry.
test that.
Miniature horse, not a pony. No
Wait,
pony.
I can bring a miniature horse or not bring a miniature horse?
Yeah, if it's a service animal, yes.
Dude, we got to get a miniature horse.
Yeah, right?
How much are they? Hey, Google, how much is a miniature horse? Dude, $800 to $5,000. We can swing 800. I think if we all chipped in like $200, we get a miniature horse. Anyway, Sai or Shauna, record custodian.
Custodian of Records. So my thing is, I've done a little bit of research to see what other districts do. Responding to Oprah requests, Oprah standing for Open Public Records Act, is a core responsibility of the business administrator. So when we advertise for business administrators, this is one of the basic things. And look at Anna Minkoff, our amazing township clerk, it's her responsibility. So my biggest request when I went to the board meeting was, what's the rationale? How many requests are there? Do we maintain an Oprah log? If we don't maintain an Oprah log, how can we say that there is an onslaught of Oprah requests? And thank you, Shauna, for putting that, awesome list together of how many Oprah requests were received, how many were duplicate. So we can clearly see there is no onslaught. And the board approved a full-time assistant to Ms. Julie Cott last year. So in addition to business administrator and her day-to-day job and mainly core functions of budget and managing the school district business needs, she has a full-time assistant, and I think it's Samantha Oates, I guess, Mrs. Oates. So my question is, between the two of them, how many Oprah requests are coming every month? Where can they prove that they both are not capable of handling these Oprah requests? And when we don't have that data, a clear data on Oprah log, basically, I feel like that it's not a substantiation request. And who are we designating? Who are we choosing? This is a person from the administrators union. He's the supervisor for world languages and social studies. And he also is the director for special projects. He's also the head of DE&I. So my question is, you are in charge of instruction and making sure these world languages programs and social studies are, successful. So where is the bandwidth in a day, and how many hours are we talking about? So where is the bandwidth? And there is this potential conflict of interest. This person from an administrators union has access to basically everybody's emails. So
okay. All right, cool. Does anybody else have any thoughts?
So basically, we have one of the people in the educating unit who can see the Oprahs coming across. They can see who the angry parents are.
Is it really a mystery anymore, though?
Shouldn't be.
I was
Is
actually
that-
trying to find this on the agenda. I know, Laura, you said you looked it up earlier.
I think I think it's a business item A.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll try and find it. It's on there though. So they must have, but it's still custodian of records. So I don't. I'll show.
I don't know why they want this guy
I
so.
see it. I see it.
Why,
It's
why they're
under-
so set on
Okay,
having.
I found it under approve appointment, resolution A, approve annual appointment, custodian of school records designee. So what they're doing is they're passing, there is this 8310, which is up for second reading, the policy, which they were trying to revise, which says that if the second reading of this policy goes through, then the custodian of records, who's Mrs. Scott, can pick a designee to be the custodian of records. So that's on the agenda under B when the policy is second reading, and then under annual appointment is the designee. And I think it's also listed somewhere down there with the stipend. I don't know, where is this? But that's where it is.
Okay. Well, I think that's a shitty idea.
Well, I mean, welcome to Berkeley Heights. I don't know. I mean, I feel like we have so many we have so many issues. I mean, I feel like this concerns me the most. I mean, this whole thing seems fishy. There's something about this whole thing that it's not the amount of it's so right. There's the principle about of like you know, he's in the union and should he be doing this, and he has 16 positions. I'm just exaggerating, obviously. And then the whole thing that happened with them trying to make a policy when they shouldn't have. Is she picking her nose? Oh no. But there's just something really fishy about this, man. There's just there's something about this that just seems really, really suspect in terms of how hard they're trying. All right, are we done, guys? This has been probably man, there's kids everywhere. People are signing off to the meeting.
This is a stressful
That
hour.
is a creepy doll. What is that?
That is very,
It's a
very
creepy doll.
creepy.
That is creepy.
I feel like I need to drag my boys in here now.
Yes.
Sorry,
I have a
Justin's
quick
upset.
question about this Hopkins appointment.
I don't know.
I don't know either, Finn. Is there, like, does he need to get trained? Is there some level of training that's required to be able to do the research and the redaction?
Have
Finn,
you
what
have
do you
you
think?
have you followed our math program? Like how it's being implemented.
So no.
No,
All right, guys, this is getting really overwhelming. I got kids, creepy dolls. I just want to. I want this
John
to end.
Leo.
I got a stain that I can't not stare at. I just want this to end.
We can't see the stain. You're okay.
I see the stain. It's right here.
I
It's
see it. I see it.
The money.
Do we
What?
Give us some money.
pay the money? No.
This needs to end.
Okay, we can
Okay.
end. I'm okay
We're
with it.
multiplying. Do we have any poor parental choices?
Not over here.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, it's been a
Wow.
pleasure.
Say
I'll talk to
goodbye.
you guys later.
Go out and vote.
In
Oh
6
my
months.
god! How do I hit the stop record button?